I'm Kate Krieger-Watkins here with Mason County Press's The Scoop, brought to you by West Shore Bank. And we are on Zoom because of the fun times with the coronavirus. And I'm joined today by Sheriff Kim Cole. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. Thanks for the invite, Kate. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, so why don't we talk about kind of what the department's doing during these very weird times to keep everybody safe and to keep you guys safe too.
Sure, absolutely. For me, this is the first Zoom type interview. I hope this isn't what they call the new normal. I don't, I like the personal connectivity. But anyway, I thought we would just, if we could chat about some of the things we've been doing at the Sheriff's Office to ensure the safety of our citizens, and maybe give some tips to the public on the do's and don'ts, if you will.
Sure.
First, I think if the public would understand, we are not setting up roadblocks and questioning people as to where they're going or why they're out and about. Law enforcement cannot pull you over solely for the purpose of trying to determine where you're coming from or where you're going or why you're out. If there's another traffic violation, such as speeding or burned out taillight or something like that, and questions come up, that's fine. But simply setting up roadblocks or questioning people specifically as to why they're out, and that's the only reason for the contact, that is not illegal.
Okay.
Also understand, we've been getting some calls from people saying, hey, my employer tells me I have to have a letter to be out and about as an essential worker. That's not true. You don't need a letter. You don't need documentation from an employer in the form of a letter or anything else to justify you being out and about. I think the number one thing, a couple of the things we could do to help prevent the spread of this COVID-19 virus is the social distancing is huge. We'd encourage people to follow that 6-foot rule. Listen to the governor's orders to stay home, stay safe. And if you are coming back to our area, and now's the time we're starting to see people come back to our area from the south, we would remind you it would be in the best interest of yourself and the health of our community to self-quarantine for 14 days. Another thing, we're getting calls on our multiple going to grocery stores. If you limit the amount that are going with you to grocery stores.
Right. So what are you guys doing? Because you guys come in contact with a lot of people every day. I mean,
yeah, I'll tell you. So in early March, we started really seeing what was the potential was of this COVID-19. So probably the first week in March, the command staff here at the Sheriff's Office and myself, we met with Canteen Services. We have a lot of irons in the fire, not only in the community, but in the jail. And Canteen Services provides all of our inmate meals. So we met with them to make sure we had a off-site kitchen available, that we had plenty of food supply for our inmates. We are trying our best to keep this virus out of our facility. But if it does get into our facility, we need to make sure we got backup plans in place to protect our inmates and our staff here. So we do have an off-site kitchen available if we need it. We have food available if we need it for the inmates, extra food that is. We are screening people coming into the building that are Canteen Services workers. We have eliminated all of our volunteer services, our church services, our substance abuse stuff. That has been put on hold for the time being till this passes by. The last thing we did in the jail that was really, really hard was eliminating inmate visitation. We want our inmates and the public to be able to communicate, and that was a tough decision to make. That was a last second decision. We just couldn't ensure the safety of the people coming into the building because they're sharing the same phone receiver, the public is, and we didn't have the staff to make that possible. So our phone provider, IC Solutions, is giving every inmate 15 minutes of free phone time a week during this time. So that's a big deal for us, and it's a big deal for the inmates. So we've enhanced our screening on inmates coming into the jail. I know people think that during this time they can break the law and there's no consequences for that. We are open for business. We don't want to see people come to jail, but we will do our job to protect our public, and if that means having to arrest people, we'll do that. But there will be enhanced screening questions for inmates coming into the jail. And I know I'm kind of going on, but I think it's important the public knows. One thing we did is we worked with the courts a couple weeks ago to try to get our inmate population down. And some people, I think, had probably a bit of a misunderstanding about that. It wasn't that we wanted people to roam the streets, but we have a 110 bed jail. And we had about 55 inmates when this whole thing started, and we realized we needed to have a quarantine area in our jail for new inmates coming in.
Right.
So
Yeah.
any inmate that comes into our jail that's probably not going to post bail, they are quarantined for 14 days, and we needed the space available to do that.
Yeah, I
Another
was
thing,
going to ask you about that. I mean, more people come in, you don't know who they've been in contact with, if they've been staying home or not. So that does, propose a
sure, yeah,
threat of spreading
absolutely.
it.
So we wanted to get our maximum security areas cleared out so we can quarantine individuals coming into the facility so that they're not coming in contact with the other inmates that are in jail. So Chief Deputy Van Sickle put a list together of inmates that were within 2 weeks of being released. They were nonviolent inmates, and I approved that list, and then that list went to the courts for final approval. And between the courts and the prosecutor's office, 9 inmates were released. And another thing that allowed us to do, Kate, was that got our numbers down so that we fell within the DOC guidelines of inmate per deputy ratio. Because another neat thing we need to think about, boy, and I pray it doesn't happen, but if we had a deputy test positive, whether on the road or in the jail, that deputy will be sent home to self-quarantine, as will the other deputies that deputy came in contact with. So the reality is we would lose 25% of our crew, whether it's in the jail or on the road, if one deputy becomes infected. So then we're having to pull deputies from other crews to fill those areas. So the reality is we can work within the DOC guidelines with 3 deputies in the jail if we get the numbers where they needed to be. And fortunately, that's where we're at.
Okay, well, that's good. But yeah, I never even thought about that, because not just them, they work with the other guys and ladies that are on your, in your office and stuff. And it's like, oh, I mean, even if it could even be like your administrative staff that could go down, and it's like you lose somebody there. And it's like, how are we going to do that end of things? It's not just, the sheriffs either. So, or the people on the road or the people in the jail. So that can propose a huge problem.
Oh, absolutely. So, absolutely. We on the road side of things, our deputies will still go calls, obviously. We are in the public service business, and oftentimes law enforcement's the front lines of going into scenes. So we have a job to do. Our guys understand that. They've accepted that. We've provided them the equipment that they need to be protected. Hopefully we've done it right. This is all uncharted waters for us. We are rewriting the manuals as we go, so it's challenging times, but all of our deputies have the personal protection equipment they have to have, and they have that available to them. They carry it with them in their cars. They have it available in the jail. And but we're encouraging, when they can make phone calls and take those reports over the phone, we would like them to do that to minimize the contact with the public in these non-in-progress, non-violent calls. Understand, the scientists, the experts tell us that you can carry this virus for up to 2 weeks, right? And not show symptoms. So if a deputy, heaven forbid, was exposed on a Monday, and the following Monday he starts or she starts showing the symptoms, we then got to contact every person that deputy's had contact with that previous week. And then those people go out and they have contact with people. And so that's why the stay at home, stay safe order is so important, and the social distancing is huge. And we need to do our part on the law enforcement side to protect the public from this COVID-19 that our guys might be carrying on them and not know it.
So I want to touch upon one other thing that you mentioned, Kim, about the suspending of the services that you guys have, but one in particular, the substance abuse, and just let's kind of talk about the mental health side of things here, because people are struggling to deal with
Absolutely.
not being able to see people, not being able to see their families or anybody. And especially with you guys having people that are now incarcerated and not being able to see them, that makes it even harder.
Right. You know, we still have mental health that is coming into our facility and talking to the inmates there. So they have the services available internally. Obviously, the workers that come in here, they are screened with their temperatures are taken. We have the thermometers you can hold up to the forehead, and it tells the temperature of the people coming in. We're doing that with folks coming in, but that's a very real concern that we have, not only with inmates, but with the public in general. You know, in the last few days, we've seen an uptick in well-being checks where folks are calling 911 and they're saying, hey, you know, my buddy's not seeming to act right. You know, he seems depressed. One of our deputies spent several hours with a fellow up in Hamlin Township earlier in the week, just helping them get through. Some to do with the current state of affairs in our nation, but also personal issues going on, you know, and it really weighs down. So, you know, there's crisis hotlines that are available for the public. And you know, I would encourage people, Kate, if you're not following the Mason County Sheriff's Office Facebook page, to do that. And you can find us on Facebook at Mason County MI Sheriff. And we will be posting hotline information and websites for people who may be struggling. Maybe you have a family member or a loved one that's struggling, and you don't know where to reach out, and you don't want law enforcement involved. We get that. We understand that. But there's a lot of services available, and we'll be posting those things, and we can certainly share those websites and phone numbers with you folks too.
That'd be great. And I think that's something that we at Mason County Press too could run with this interview, or run as an article itself too, just so people have resources.
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, this is uncertain. Like you said, it's new territory. We have no idea when it's going to end. We have no idea what's going to happen. And that's really, with all these people having to be laid off, that can be really frustrating and scary, you know, and then they start to feel depressed and they start to, you know, isolate themselves, and it's not good. So there is definitely help out there for people that are feeling that way. And I hope that they reach out for that. So
yeah, we would too. And we'll be, like I said, we'll be putting that stuff out there for the public on our Facebook page. And we'd encourage, you know, you folks to join us in sharing that as well. But these struggles are very real, and people struggle every day as it is. And when, like you said, when you lose your job, or you're cooped up in your home, and the pressures of the world are gathering on you, and you don't know from day to day whether or not you know you're going to be healthy. Those take their toll on a person.
yeah, and it's not like it's July, so it's like really nice out, you know, so at least you get the sunshine coming in. But it's like, you know, the March and April sometimes can be not the greatest, you know, weather. So it's not the most fabulous thing to keep those spirits up. But I want to thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate all the information.
Yeah, and you know, if you want to do a follow-up, we're certainly willing to do that. But I do think it's important, you know, the public understands what we're doing, and they know what we're doing. The voters, the taxpayers, they are the board of directors to law enforcement, at least on the sheriff's side of things. You know, they're the ones that put us in office. They're the ones that support us, and it's important they know what we're doing. And I would also add, to let people know, Chief Barnett with Ludington PD. You know, he's only got a couple weeks left and he's retiring, but that guy's on the phone with me all the time. We're communicating, we're making sure that we're supporting the Ludington Police Department, and that the Ludington Police Department is supporting us. Chief Murphy, he's a new guy out there in Scottville, but Murph calls all the time looking for direction and advice, and those are the right things to do, right? So the public needs to know that law enforcement's communicating. Lieutenant White and Lieutenant Canitz with the Michigan State Police, they've been awesome. Troopers are still coming up to our area on a regular basis. They're here all the time to field calls and support us where we need. And, you know, MSP could be mobilized to an area that's losing officers. You know, Detroit PD has over 100 officers who have tested positive. Wayne County Sheriff has scores of officers that have tested positive. You know, they lost a command officer to it. DPD lost a captain to the virus. And so it isn't out of the realm of possibility that the state police could be mobilized to another area of the state. But right now, they're here with us, and they're standing shoulder to shoulder with us all. And it's important the public knows that as law enforcement, we're communicating and we're sharing information and we're sharing ideas. Senator Vanderwall and Representative O'Malley have been great. They're talking. I just talked to Kurt yesterday, getting ideas and advice from him, and he's asking how we're doing, and O'Malley's doing the same. Had a conversation with Congressman Heisinga's office yesterday. So our partners on the state and federal level have been awesome. The channels of communication are open, and we certainly appreciate that. Yeah. And the public needs to know we're all communicating. You might not see it, you don't know about it, but it is taking place, and I certainly value the partnerships we have on a state and federal level.
Right. Well, as they say, it takes a village. I mean, we're all kind of in this together because we don't know what's going to happen. And Absolutely. We have to keep everybody safe. So I appreciate everything that you guys are doing and linking up resources and for the public and for yourselves, because everybody's got to stay safe. So again, thanks for joining me today, Kim. I really appreciate it.
Thanks you so much for the invitation. And if you need anything at all, please don't hesitate to let me know.
Great, thanks. And for any other news, check out MasonCountyPress.com. We'll be continually updating you guys on what's happening with the COVID-19. And our weather is always brought to you by Smith & Eddy Insurance. So if you haven't already, like Kim said, check out their Facebook page for the Mason County Sheriff's Department, because they'll be running a bunch of resources on there, videos, just updates to keep everybody, in the know of what's happening with COVID-19.